Oh, good evening. This is Wednesday night. And of course, by now, this is our 90th show. We're getting close to 100. And I'm excited to have you joining us tonight and this evening. Rion and Henny will be joining the panel discussion shortly afterwards. And of course, let's not forget that you are also going to be part of tonight's panel discussion. So please send through your questions, your insights, your stories. We would love to hear where you're from, what country, what city. So please share that with us. And let's talk about tonight's topic. And the topic this evening is there is a way. There is a way. And, I just find that so many people are sitting in a place today where they almost feel stuck. They feel like there is no hope. They feel like they're just not going to succeed at their goals or dreams. And I want to share with you a story that I experienced when I was a few years younger than I am today. This particular story that I'm going to share with you took place approximately 40 years past. And I'll never forget the day because we were on our holiday. It was December time. We were down at our beach cottage. And of course, for those of you who know me will understand that our beach cottage was just 2 kilometers from the farmhouse. We used to sit on our veranda at the farm and look at the beach cottage at the beach. I mean, that's how close it was. And it was so interesting that we used to pack up everything and go on holiday. And holiday meant traveling just 2 kilometers, unpacking everything and enjoying ourselves at the beach, close enough to the farm so we could go and do the milking early morning and early evening, and the rest of the day we spent fishing and doing other exciting things. But on this particular occasion, it was a very important day. We used to go and collect sea creatures. Let me just say sea creatures, or let me be more specific. We used to call it cockling. We used to go and collect cockles. Those of you who don't know what a cockle is, it's a sea snail. And this was great fun for the children. And we had to wait for a very low tide. It was a spring tide. So the tide or the waters would recede quite extensively, opening up all those places that we usually covered by water, which would enable us to go and find things like mussels, crabs, cockles, you name it. We would find all kinds of interesting things. And of course, our goal this particular day was to impress everyone by the number of cockles that we could find. And we set off. My aunt was leading the charge. And we headed down straight in front of the cottage to the first lot of rocks. And to our dismay, the rocks where we normally collected cockles had been covered by sand. And so we began to move further. And as we moved further, eventually we found some open pools and there were no cockles. And we began to look and search, and we went into every nook and cranny, and there was nothing. And of course, being a 12-year-old at the time, you got impatient. And I was the oldest grandchild, so everyone else that was with us was much younger. And of course, people were complaining, when are we going to find the cockles? When are we going to go home? You know those stories. When are we going to get there, kind of thing. And my aunt shared something with me that day that changed my whole perspective. She said this. She said, where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't know, but this just inspired me. I began to actually declare it. You know, we were walking, going over the rocks and down into the little ponds and over the rocks and down into the next pond. And I was declaring, where there is a will, there's a way. And we began to move on, and we were now determined that we were going to prove this declaration right. But you know, again, we began to lose hope in a sense, and my aunt, in her wisdom, drew our attention to another one of her favorite sayings. And her next favorite saying was this: where there's life, there's hope. Where there's life, there's hope. And you know, she started talking about the fact that if there's seaweed in the pond, that's life. And if there's life there, the chance of finding a cockle exists. And of course, I now started talking about this idea: where there's life, there's hope. Where there's life, there's hope. And every pond we went to, the same thing would be said. And where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's life, there's hope. And you know what was interesting? We started finding life, real creatures. We started finding the very cockles that we were looking for. First, they were small, too small for us to be permitted to take them. We had to leave them behind. But soon we started finding the really big daddies, and we began to collect them, put them in our packets, and we continued to move along. And you know something? It was every new cockle that we picked up just encouraged us to take that next step, to move forward. We were determined that we were going to have the biggest haul of cockles that had ever been taken at this particular spring low tide. And so we continued. And we set ourselves a goal. There was a fence that came right down onto the beach that separated the piece of land where we were and the neighbor's farm. And so we said, okay, we're going to go as far as that fence. And the rocks were getting bigger. We were beginning to have to climb over them. It was almost like a mini cliff, if you like. And we were going up and down. And right at the end, we just got to the fence. You know that place where you're about to give up, where you kind of think, okay, we're just not going to reach our goal. This is it. We've exhausted every possible place to find cockles, and we turned towards the beach, or let's say that we turned towards the grass, because at this stage there was no sand anymore. The grass came right down to the rocks. And as we started heading up the embankment towards the grass, we came across a pond, or should I say, I found a pond of water that had collected during the very high tide that had preceded just 6 hours earlier, the spring high. And in this pond, which was no bigger than a 4-seater restaurant table, if you can just imagine, and it was about at the depth of a ruler, that's how deep it was, inside this pond, and a place that will probably not see water for the next 2 weeks or until the next spring tide, there were what looked like hundreds of tiny little shrimp. These shrimp were approximately, and I'm giving you the information so that you can picture and visualize what I'm talking about. The shrimp were about the size of my lenses, okay? About 40 to 50 millimeters in length. And they were swimming in this tiny pond. Of course, they could go nowhere. And I had a plastic packet, the kind of plastic packet that you buy your loaf of bread in. You know those olden days when you get a clear plastic packet, you take your hot, fresh bread from the baker, you shove it in this clear plastic packet, you spin it around, tie a knot, and go and pay for it. Well, it was one of those plastic packets. And I scooped up all of these shrimp. Now, you've got to understand, we didn't go looking for shrimp. We were looking for cockles, and we had collected the cockles, but not as many as we would have liked. And this was something completely different. These shrimp were going to die for sure because the water was already getting hot from the beating sun. They were on death's door in a sense. But I collected these shrimp, and that same morning, together with 3 of my cousins who had just arrived from Zimbabwe, they were visiting us in East London, we went fishing. The age of the 6 of us that went fishing was from the age of 7 years old up to 15 years old. And so the 6 of us were there standing on this rock right out in the sea, it felt, because it was still low tide. And we began to put these shrimp on the hook, and we started fishing. Well, I want to tell you that that particular day, that day, we caught a fish with every single shrimp. I mean, that the line barely hit the water and the fish were biting. And as little as we were, even the 7-year-olds were pulling in these fish. They were called, they're not spotted grunters, sand grunters. Sand grunters. You can go and look it up. I'm sure there's something, Mrs. Google will probably show you exactly what a sand grunter looks like. And we began to catch these sand grunters. We caught over 200 of them in the space of an hour. I mean, it was the most exciting thing as children that we had ever done. We had the adults were sitting there watching us. I couldn't believe what was happening. As the line was hitting the water, the next fish would be coming out. And we had such fun that day. And we had this bag of fish. I mean, you can imagine over 200 fish between us. And then the shrimp came to an end. And the moment we finished the shrimp, that was the end of us catching fish. There was only one thing that those fish were biting on. We tried every other kind of bait, but the only thing they bought or that they were caught on was this tiny little shrimp. And as I reflect back, that story has been carried through the decades. Our children know about it. Friends know about it. It was kind of the news of the holiday. And what happened was my grandmother at the time took those 200 sand grunters and she took a pocket of potatoes or whatever she needed and she made fish cakes. I mean, she stood in that kitchen and made fish cake upon fish cake upon fish cake. The 7 little children ended up feeding the entire camp of people. And I'll say the camp, there were 5 cottages, 5 families. We fed that whole group of people for the entire week. Every day, morning, lunch, and supper, there was fish cakes on the table. And I was just thinking about that in terms of Map for Life and maybe in the context of where you find yourself today. We set out that morning, and very soon it became clear that we were not going to find cockles because the sand had salted up all of the places that we would normally find cockles. But then we began to declare something. Where there's life, there's hope. Where there's a will, there's a way. And making that declaration enabled us to go further, much further than what we had planned to go. We went beyond the boundaries. We didn't stop because it was important for us to reach the goal. We weren't going to allow the fact that the area we normally went to look for cockles had been silted over. We decided to go beyond that. And as we went beyond those places, we found the unexpected. Not only did we find the unexpected, we found the unexpected in an unexpected place, close to the grass, in a pond that should never have been there, were these shrimp. And in the moment, we took the opportunity to collect those shrimp. And what happened as a result of that was that we achieved more than we could imagine, much more. That small little packet of shrimp that was taken out of that that pond turned into over 200 fish, which fed 5 families for a whole week. And you know something? The bonus was that we created a memory that has lasted a lifetime, and in all probability will last more than a lifetime. And why I say that was because my grandfather used to talk about it. He has passed on. My father used to talk about it. He has passed on. I've talked about it, and I'm sure my children will talk about it as well, and they'll tell the story. And so tonight, I want to encourage you to say that it doesn't matter where you find yourself right now. It doesn't matter whether your hunting ground is silted over. Just begin to move beyond your comfort zone. Step outside the boundaries. Move, go to places you haven't been before, because there you're going to begin to find something. When you have the attitude of where there's a will, there is a way, it's going to energize you. It's going to keep you inspired to go on, because you know that over the next rise, there's a possibility that you're going to discover an oasis. Over around the next bend, your pot of gold may be sitting. It's going to generate within you hope. The fact that you are alive suggests to me that where there's life, there is hope. The fact that your heart is beating right now speaks hope, and hope brings light. You are hope, in fact. Wherever you go, people are looking to you and they're seeing hope for a better tomorrow. I believe that irrespective of how silted up your hunting ground is right now, your prime spot is just one little shuffle away, one little step of faith to the right or to the left. You may be at a place where you feel like giving up. I want to say to you, step forward. The day is young. The sun is shining. There is hope. There is something to look forward to. When you have clarity of vision, when you have seen the future, when you've had divine revelation, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that has the power to stop you except you. Only you can stop you. So I want to suggest that you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, press on beyond the boundary, and begin to see your dreams come alive. I hope that my story that I've shared with you today is going to trigger your memories, and I'm looking forward to hearing your story. So please post a comment, share your stories with us. Just after the break, we're going to be listening to some of the moments or memories, perhaps, that Rion and Henny have ready to share with us. And I am looking forward to reading those that are being posted online as well. So remember, next week, same time, same place, we're going to have fun together, and I look forward to chatting to you right after this break. A good reminder, get yourself a copy of Begin, because now it's time to start. Henny, Rion, so good to have you. I'm gonna pop your names up on the screen there just so that our viewers know who's who. And it's really exciting to have Ngwadi and Octavia joining us and sharing their comments. and I look forward to hearing your guys' story. And I think, Henny, you're sitting right there on the top of the screen. Maybe you have a story to share. But before you do, why don't you just quickly introduce yourself, just in case we have somebody watching this recording that has not met you before.
Good evening. My name is Henny. I'm still from Roodepoort. My story has not changed a lot, except that it's getting a lot better. Map for Life is my lifestyle right now. I eat, breathe, drink, sleep Map for Life, and it's unbelievable how opportunities open up. It sort of semi-ties in with what Glen was talking about right now. You just see opportunity everywhere. It's just a matter of keeping your eyes open. So yeah, that's me. I've got a vision to say I want to empower as many people as I can to find their purpose. We've got all the tools. We've got everything we need to do. It's now just the doing it that needs to happen.
I just realized today is 1323. 1323. I like looking at numbers, and just that one kind of gets my attention for today. Rian, tell us who you are, where you're from.
I will be like Henny. I'm still Rian, and I'm still from Leidenburg. My story is as well that God is busy with forming my life. My purpose in life is to help people to get to victory, and victory, in my view, is people finding their godly purpose or their calling in life. So what I want to do, my purpose is to lead companies, organizations, or individuals to that. So yes, I'm working on that. It's an exciting journey. It's sometimes a bit tough, like Glen said tonight. You need to have nerves of steel. But you know what? If your feet are grounded on the rock and you are humble underneath His hand, then anything can happen. So I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about what God is doing. He's like Henny said, every day there's opportunities passing by. Sometimes we miss them, but most of the time we hit them. And when we hit them, then if you go and God go in the same direction, there's nothing that can stop you. So yeah, it's for me, it's just a question of hitting the ground running. And when I tell my story after Henny, it will also be about running. So that's the other thing I love. Although I'm injured now, I actually love running.
Well, you don't need to share too much information. I was just thinking, as you were saying there, the secret, guys, the secret is that you've got to travel light. You've got to travel light when you go into the future. So I expect that as we move forward into the future, you're going to be traveling lighter and lighter. But anyway, Henny, this evening I shared a little personal story from way back, and I was wondering whether it triggered any memories or any stories from your younger days, or maybe from family or whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking of something very interesting when you started telling the story. It sort of reminded me about the analogy that we used in Map for Life as well with the GPS. The purpose of the GPS is to say it picks up where you are right now, and then you put in the destination, and then it guides you to get there. Sometimes it adjusts en route because it finds something different. Not too long ago, about 5-6 years ago, I worked for a boss, and then a GPS with the name of Waze came around. And the boss said, now you need to download this GPS-based one. And I downloaded this thing, and I had to travel extensively through Gauteng, Northwest, etc. And the boss said, now the trick is this GPS is good, but you need to trust it. If it tells you to drive this way around and it's 2 hours longer than you think you should be driving, just believe in it. You need to have faith in the tool, and it's going to work for you. Guess what? When I started, I didn't follow it, and it took a lot longer. There was no roads. There was something wrong. There was always something wrong. And you start getting to the point where you actually start believing in this GPS. But what stood out for me is it always takes you to the destination. So if I know where I am going, if I know what the end result is going to be, I need to keep my eyes open, have faith that the Lord will get me there, but also see the opportunity, see the nice scenery that's going to come past me on that journey. Sometimes I'm so focused to get to the destination that I forget to enjoy the journey. And I think for me, that's sort of what I read through your story was to say, it's an awesome journey that we're on. We mustn't forget to stop and smell the flowers. We must actually enjoy the journey, see the opportunities, learn from those things, because it's something that's going to be needed when you get to the end result, when you get to your destination. Yeah, I think that's what I picked up. Maybe not a story, but I sort of picked up a journey through what you shared with us there, to say you got something out of it that is a lasting memory. And I think we can do the same thing if we just allow ourselves the time to enjoy the journey and not get bogged down so much on the destination.
You know, Henny, you just highlighted the fact for me that the day started out what appeared to us as a terrible day. It was like kind of the worst possible start. Everything where we were going to look was now covered with sand, and yet that very sand that had covered the rocks brought in the fish that we were going to harvest later that day, with something that we would find that we weren't looking for. And I think that on that particular day, we saw all kinds of things that we would never have seen had we not been making those declarations of where there's life, there's hope, where there's a will, there's a way. And we began to, we saw all kinds of interesting things that day, even birds and rocks that we hadn't seen. And, you know, we were seeing sea urchins and different kinds of seaweed. I mean, it was an amazing journey, of course, with my aunt's help. And I think that idea, the day started out disappointing, but it finished as a lasting memory. And maybe there's people that are listening to this tonight and listening to the recording that are finding themselves at a place of a disappointing start. But cheer up. This disappointing start could be a remarkable finish. And at the end of the day, it's not how you start, it's how you finish that matters. And of course, on that note, let's go to a man who knows what it's like to start and finish. So Rian, let's hear your running story.
Yeah, I can tell you quite a bit. I'm a trail runner. I'm a very accomplished trail runner. I know how to end dead last in a race, which I've done a few times.
What is a trail runner? Tell us, what is a trail runner? Just so that
a trail runner is somebody that it's somebody that doesn't run on the roads. We run in the mountains or in the deserts or in the bushveld or wherever there's not a proper track. There we are running. So we like to go off road. We are like the mountain bikers that travels on gravel and all those little single tracks. So we just go a little bit further than they can, because we can climb up places that they can't go up with their bikes. So we just try to go a bit more remote than the mountain bikers.
So you don't like limitations or boundaries, eh?
Not too much. One of my values are that growth lies outside the comfort zone. So, you know, I've been on a mission my whole life to get outside my comfort zone. You know, I believe God made me to be a front runner. So I sometimes get too used to run out in front on my own. I need to always remember to take my team with me. But yeah, no, I like to go and operate outside my comfort zone. And when I don't do it, then yes, the story. There's actually one, and then there's another short one that I referred to. But I think the one that I want to refer to, there's a race that I've done. I've done it a few times. It's called the Uitsoek. It's here close to Lydenburg. It's in the mountains. So some of my friends and myself.
What does that mean? What is that in English? Just there's some people that are listening tonight that might not.
Yes, the forest name is Uitsoek, so that means it's a lookout almost, you know, but it's a forest name. So Lydenburg, yes, we got forests around here, so it's I think I'm not sure which one of the forestry companies. So they've got the Uitsoek and the Uittek. So the one is Outlook and the other one is Searching Out. So at the Uitsoek race, it's around 42, 43 kilometers, but it's off road. So we went for this race, and my friends dropped me around 10, 11 k's in the race because we got this agreement, we'll start together, but you know, when you start racing, you go on. So that day, there's what they call a chicken route. So when you get towards the end, you can either choose to finish on the right route, which will take you to about 42, 43 kilometers, or you can take the chicken route and then you get out about 34, 35 kilometers. So I was dead. I was dead on my feet. So I decided that day to my own, I was very sad afterwards, but I've done the chicken route. And obviously my friends done the whole one. So they didn't say anything. They didn't need to. But, I just felt afterwards, I didn't do this race. And I said, I will come back and I will finish this thing without doing a chicken route. So I think it was the next year or 2 years after that, I went back. So that year, both my friends got injured. They didn't want to run with me. Another friend said, no, he wants to do it. He chickened out. At the end of the day, I went on my own. So now I made an agreement with the guy that was organizing the race. I said to him, you know what, I want to finish today. But last time you didn't have race T-shirts. He said, yeah, but we don't have race shirts. I said, I need my race shirt. I need to show the world that I've done the Itzuk. He said, okay, you print one just for me. But if I take the chicken route, I'm not going to get anything. So I said, no, it's fine. It's fine. So the day started out and we've done the race, and it's like you said, I got to places there at 20, 25 kilometers where, high mountains and going down dizzying heights, that I really was wondering what I was doing there. And then I also fell, lekker hard. I was climbing over a big tree trunk. And when I got on the other side, my foot slipped and I fell with my backside right onto this big tree trunk. I thought my camel bag was gone, but it wasn't. And so I was lying there for about 10 or 20 seconds and feeling extremely sorry for myself. Then I realized that it's too remote. No one, there's no cell phone reception, nothing. No one is going to find me there. So I might as well get up and stop feeling sorry for myself and go on. So I went on, and about 30 days into the race, I got one of the last watering points, and the organizer was standing there, and he said, here's the shit, Rian. Remember now, you need to finish, otherwise you can't get it. To make a long story short, we've done the last race, so we entered into a little valley that we'd done in the beginning. So I say little valley, but it's about 7 kilometers. We are literally crossing a river, going up the hill on the other side, crossing the river, going up. It is extremely tough. It is slippery. You slip, you fall. I fell a few times on the bridges. At the stage, I was really done and dusted. But I decided, today I'm going to make it. I'm not going to give up. And I'm not sure how far at the back. I didn't see anybody with me. In any case, there was no one around me. I was on my own. And at about 39 kilometers, I called my wife because I saw the phone was also going now, the battery. And I cried. I said to her, I'm dead. I'm so heartful. But you know what? Now, I'm going to make it. But my phone is going to be gone now. Just know I'm still alive, and Burger is going to be there at the end. And by hook or by crook, I finished it that day. That's the only one that I finished the whole race. I've done it again, but I did shorter versions. But the thing that I learned that day is what you said. It's the power to the way you talk to yourself. The way that you either inspire yourself or you talk yourself down. And I just refused that day to listen to all the negative messages from the body. And at the end of the day, I finished the race, and it's definitely one of the toughest, if not the toughest one that I've ever finished. And it's etched in my mind. And I tell the story, and my daughter is now running with me sometimes. We didn't do the long one yet, but she said we will do it one day. I said to her, yeah, you are welcome. I'm not sure if I'm going to join you again, but you can do it. But most probably I will do it with her. But you know what? It also created a love in her, because now she's the next generation. And the one race that she wants to do every year with me is she wants to go to Itzuk. So whatever is happening at varsity and wherever else, that weekend she's here and we go there. There's nothing else. So, the respect and everything you get is just, it keeps on building and it motivates you. And whenever I'm in a race and I find it tough, I think back on that day that I was crying over the phone with my wife like a baby, but I still went on and I made it. And God just creates this positive thinking in you and gives you this memories to pull you through in the time that you really need it. And this weekend, actually, we had a leadership conference, and I was teaching the guys, here in the Burgersfort area, which is basically a rural area, and I was teaching them on all these principles of leadership. But what I realized is every time I told the story, the people was like leaning to the front and actually starting to listen. And when I got back to the facts and all the information, they were sitting back and I couldn't see they were falling asleep. But what I realized is, especially in Africa, where we are living, storytelling is very powerful. And you know what? I'm sure a lot of people left on Saturday forgetting everything that I taught them. But I remember one or two stories that I told them, because those stories were from my life, and it's something they can identify with. So storytelling is very important, and it really motivates it. It's the testimonies that keep on showing the people. You know, it's a stories. The Bible, the whole New Testament, is basically testimonies and stories of what Jesus did, what his disciples did, and you know, in all our cultures, it's the same. So I just realized again over the weekend how powerful it is to tell the stories and to share the stories and to always look for the deeper meaning that God is busy showing to you through stories.
Rian, thank you so much. I want to tell there's a couple of listeners that probably don't understand some of the words you use. So you know, just to let people know that backside is the side of your back, and it's all, you know, so you need to understand that. So that's how Rian fell. He fell on the side of his back. And then there was another word that he used, which in English it translates to he had enough. He had got to the end of his tether. And
yes.
So Rian, I think everybody has been there. It's amazing what a T-shirt can do. I was just, Henny, what do you think? I mean, we should get some T-shirts made. Maybe this could be the ultimate encourager to get people to cross the line. I was thinking of when you talked about T-shirt, I was thinking of that movie Forrest Gump, and he's running along, and some guy gives him a yellow T-shirt, and he uses it to wipe his face, and then the guy goes and takes that image, and he says something that sounds like shift happens, and of course. What you were talking about this evening is that you had a shift of perspective, and you realized that you can actually go beyond the boundary. You can finish the race, and you don't have to chicken out. You know, I can imagine, Henny, that there were those friends that were tempted to make a chicken sound when Rian walked into the restaurant. I can just picture some people there in Leiden. But before you share, I just want to welcome Jackie all the way from the Free State. Some of you might know a place called Harry Smith. She's in the farming area there, so she's a boertjie, if that's how you say it, a farmer. And so great to have you joining us this evening, Jackie. And I saw some exciting words there: resilience. Jackie says respect, so maybe she's not so keen on the cross country running or the trail running. Any some thoughts from your side? I'm sure that listening to Rian has triggered some things, or maybe some comments on what he was sharing.
Yeah, I'm also a runner, but I take the easy route. I stay on the route where it's flat. So I'm a road runner, not a trail runner. It's a lot easier to do. Yep, exactly. Simple. But yeah, I think for me the key thing is you are entitled to create memories for yourself, and I think the good and the long and the lasting memories are those that you actually gave yourself the time to enjoy. I think you can create memories, and I mean, if you do it correct, that forms part of your journey of being significant. I read somewhere in this week, Robin Williams, the actor that's died, they said where everybody had their fancy thing on stage, etc. Robin Williams had one thing. He said he needed 2 homeless people to work on the set while he was doing a movie. So that's what he requested people do for him. And there was always 2, which meant that at the end of his life, 1,534 homeless people actually worked on sets. Now, if you look at it like that, that is a lasting memory for a lot of people that he created. So 1,534 people probably had no hope, and he gave them something, even though they were just cleaning. They were on a set of a very important movie. So I think we must never forget to not focus where we're supposed to go, but we must also remember that life is happening for us and not to us. We need to look around for that. And we had this conversation previously where people don't want to do anything between Christmas and New Year. I'm just waiting for New Year so I can make my resolutions. And I'm just wondering how many opportunities gets lost because I'm not looking for them. We should be resilient. Octavia put down resilience there. I agree. We need to be wide awake. We need to see everything coming. I think there's an opportunity, call it another name. There's a memory waiting to happen to me if I just allow it to come my way. I need to see something and make it happen, and it will create a memory for me on my journey.
Just taking, I was thinking as you were talking about taking other people along the journey with you. And if I think back to the story that I shared this evening, that story would never have been the same if there weren't other people to share it with. And sharing it with others made the difference. And as I was listening to you, Rian, I was hearing the importance of making a declaration again. You will finish this race. And not only will you finish this race, but you're going to get the organizer to make a T-shirt so that you can get the T-shirt, that you can wear the T-shirt. There were other people that you made, that you told, and you made a commitment. You told them that you're going to finish it. And maybe there's a level, an aspect of accountability that we are highlighting in this talk. Accountability, commitment, and so on. In addition to obviously the resilience and so forth. When I had the opportunity to participate in, let me say, after school and after studies, I had a 2-year sabbatical. And like most other young South Africans of my complexion, we had a 2-year sabbatical. I don't know if people would call it a sabbatical, but when I look back, it was actually 2 years of doing something different. But I learned something there, and what I learned was that my end wasn't even halfway. when I was ready to give up, encouragement by others, and having other people see in me the ability to go further than what I thought I could. When I thought I'd reached my deathbed, in a sense, where I'd hit the wall so hard that I could not go any further, I realized that beyond the wall lay what they call a second wind. And it was amazing to go from a place where you felt like you were dead, there was no hope, it was just the end, that suddenly when you pushed yourself just that little bit further, when you were ready to give up but you didn't, and you took that next step, suddenly you stepped into that reserve. It's almost like you carry a battery pack with you that has more energy than the original battery pack. It's like your kind of cell phone runs out, but there's actually more than what you've used still on reserve. Well, that's not the case with a cell phone, but it certainly feels like you and I have a built-in reserve that is only available to the one who is prepared to push beyond the limit, to push past the place where they give up. What are your thoughts on that, Rian?
Yeah, I definitely agree. But the other thing that I think you touched on, that's very important, is the fact that if you have a purpose in life, you need to share it with the people because they need to keep you accountable for it. And I think it's very important what you said is that, you cannot just do these things. You need to do it with other people that they can keep you motivated, that they can keep you focused, and that they can run the journey with you. But you know what? The tougher the race, the bigger the reward at the end of the day. And I think, if you have a tough life, I tell the people in terms of courageous leadership, if leadership is tough for you, then you're doing something right, because the journey is supposed to be tough. You can't lead people and think it's going to be easy. It is tough, it is difficult, and if you're doing it that way, then it's the right way. But you need to have the courage to do it. And like you said, you can't access the second wind in terms of running unless you need to learn it. You need to literally go to the end of yourself, and any will know it. Maybe if you ran a marathon or even a half marathon, you need to get to that place that you think you are now just dead tired, and just keep on going. And before you realize it, at the stage you think back about it, hey, about 2 kilometers ago I want to stop, I didn't have anything. Now I'm running faster than I ran in the beginning. Now I'm feeling actually better, and that's the second wind you're referring to. So that's very important. But I think it's also very important that you need to share the race, because when I share my purpose with other people and I start going in another direction, then people can tell me, but is this in line with your purpose? My one friend said to me at the stage that he feels that God took me out of the hamster wheel from my previous life and gave me opportunity now to live purposefully. So now every time that I speak to that friend of mine, I say, you know what, I think maybe I must go and look for a job, and this opportunity. Then he says to me, are you going back to the hamster wheel now? And then I say, no, I'm not going back to the hamster wheel. Then he says, no, it just sounds like though you want to be back in the hamster wheel, But something else that I can perhaps share as well is I'm actually an accountant by trade, and I was a financial manager at the mine. And I got the opportunity a few years ago by hook or by crook, which is an interesting story, actually, not by hook or by crook, by God's grace, actually, that I got the opportunity to apply for the general manager position. So when you understand mining, you also know that in mining, the miners don't like non-mining people to run a mine, to be a general manager of the mine. So number one, the fact that I was an accountant did not go down well with the miners and the technical people, because you don't understand what's going on. Also, where we are sitting in South Africa with all the push that we had for transformation, I wasn't the ideal candidate sitting there. So in actual fact, the whole world said to me, the world said, why do you even bother? Just leave it. You're an accountant. There's nothing that's playing in your favor. And I told my friends, my close friends, and they started praying with me. And they all said, you know what, go for it. You don't need to go and open any doors. Trust God to open the doors, and the doors close, it's fine. And the doors open, it opens. You know what? And God opened the doors, because until today, no one can tell me why I actually got the job, because there were very strong other candidates. But I had the opportunity, to learn so much in about 6 years that I was able to lead the mine, that God just gave me the grace to understand, and we had an excellent run in terms of many things. But the long and short of it is, you know what, if I stood on my own and started listening to the voices that came in, I would not even have put my CV for the job. But the fact that I ran purposefully, and I told the people, listen, this is what I think the purpose is. This is where I think I need to go. Pray with me, stand with me. And whenever I said, I'm going to withdraw from this process, the guy said, you said you're going to leave this to God. You believe this is the opportunity that God is giving you. Don't go back now. We are praying with you. You know what you stand for. And I think that's very important when you run the race, share your story, share your purpose, and share your vision. So,
Ngwadi was saying shared knowledge is power. And I think that what we're doing this evening is just that. I'm going to put us next to each other. So you're going to find yourself in the center of the screen in a moment, so that we can just share some of the comments that people share with us. So if you guys are like right in the center, perfect. All right, and so I want to, you highlighted something, Rion. There's a story from Tanzania. I want to welcome Jane from Uganda, and Jane, I think I can almost sense that she was listening to what you were saying, Rion, and agreeing with you and saying thanks for the message. It's such an inspiration, just what I needed to hear. And it reminded me of a story of a young guy in Tanzania. Now, some of you may have heard of Dr. Yona. Dr. Yona is one of the mappers. He's a famous mapper worldwide in the worldwide web of mappers. He leads Map for Life in Tanzania. And in fact, he got his first Map for Life in December 1999. And he bought 2 copies in Cape Town and in a bookstore that I only supplied 10 books to. So he bought 20% of the books back then. And he was invited to speak at his old school. And when he was addressing the matrics, our equivalent of the matrics, the final year students, he talked about the importance of having a dream. And after the session, what was interesting is if you are a speaker in a country like Tanzania, the audience have a very high regard for the speaker. The speaker almost needs to have bodyguards to protect them from the audience, because everybody wants to flock and just touch the speaker or do something. But Dr. Yona is quite a different kind of guy. He's a big person. When I say big, he's tall. he's not broad. He's very tall. But guess what, Henny? He's also a runner. And Rion. So you should join him on a Monday morning at Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Map Club. Dr. Yona is there. And there was a young man in this audience that came up and said, I have a dream. And we first said, do you mind, could I speak to you? And Dr. Yona said, sure, come chat to me. Tell me about your dream. And he said, I want to go and study in America. And this young guy, you've got to understand, was from a broken home. His father was an alcoholic who had left him and his mother and later passed away. His mother was unemployed. The only way that she could feed her children was to sweep up the threshing at the local mill to have food to feed them. So he had a tough start. And there was absolutely no way that he could go and study in America. But Dr. Yona asked him something interesting. When he had shared his dream, he said, now just hold on, Jack, before we continue. Are you serious about this dream? And Jack was taken back a little bit and he said, yes, I am. So he said, tell me what your dream is again. And Jack repeated his story. And this time he said the reason he wants to study in America is so that he can come back and change Tanzania. And Dr. Yona asked him a simple question. He said, so Jack, have you applied to study in America? And guess what Jack's answer was? No. And the simplest thing, the thing that cost no money, the thing that Jack was fully qualified to do, which was to complete the application form, he hadn't done that because he had talked himself out of it already. And when you were sharing your story, I was just wondering how many people have talked themselves out of something before they even put it down on paper. But Jack went ahead and he wrote, he submitted his application, and 2 weeks later, he got a response to say he had been accepted. Not just accepted, but he'd been accepted with a full scholarship. I mean, the story is amazing. Jack studied in America, and later, after he went to 3 different universities. He got more than 3 degrees in the time that he was there, in the space that a normal person would only get 1 degree. This story is just one of those unbelievable stories, but it ended up where his final year of study was at Harvard University. A young person who was destined to go and sell sugarcane in his local village, that's all that he could hope for in Tanzania, ended up studying at Harvard University. Today, he lives in the United Kingdom, but his photograph that he had taken for his passport and for his visa was taken in the same chair where the president of Tanzania had his photograph taken. And that was a declaration that one day Jack would come back and fulfill his dream of transforming Tanzania. Thank you for reminding me of that story. because I think it's these kinds of stories that really have an impact. Henny, you're sitting right in the middle, my friend. In the middle, Cyril, as they say, but your name's Henny. I see Jackie's written something. I can't even read it. It's so long. Jackie, it looks like something important.
I'm gonna comment on that.
I'm gonna ask Henny because he's got his glasses on. Henny, tell us.
I'm going to comment on what Jackie's written there, yeah, because I agree. She says to notice opportunities, you must first know what you want. Having a vision of what you want opens one's eyes for the opportunity. So I do agree with that. If you don't have a vision, you're not on a journey. Then you've got a directionless existence, like we call it. Then you're just floating around. To be on a journey, you need to know where you're going. If the GPS has not got a destination, you're going nowhere. Then you're just waiting for something to happen. What is I think, what is part of the great success, I think, for me on the Map for Life side, in the lifestyle that I'm living right now, is really what we're doing tonight. It is really the sharing. And I mean, Rian also said that, and it's so true. When something happens to me, I've got an opportunity to do one or two things. I can complain and find all the negative in it, or I can find the positive in it and share it with other people and build them up. And I think that's what we manage to do, what we're managing to do, I think, at Map for Life right now, with Map Clubs, with the talk we've got tonight. We're sharing nice experiences, we're sharing success stories, we're sharing all the wonderful things that's happening with us because we follow the things, we've changed our habits, we've written things down, etc. And by just doing that, we're actually building up other people. And I think that's part of the success that we're going to continue building if we keep on doing this, is just sharing with people. Our stories might just be the last thing that somebody else needed to hear for them to take that final leap of faith. Faith is very key in what we're doing. I mean, if we do not believe in the Lord and that He's going to open doors for us, we're not going to really get there. We're going to sometimes have to take a leap of faith. And the good part is it always works. It always works. Maybe not the way we thought. And then once we've done it, we must just speak about it and tell people to say, listen, the Lord has come around for me again, because He keeps on coming around for me. He's always there when I need Him. And I think in that way, we're empowering other people to say, if it can happen for him, it can happen for me as well. His story is not very different from mine. And I think that's where we win, by sharing these stories, not to let people know that we're great, but to say, you are also able to do it. You can do it. There's nothing different in your space. And like you said, now, Jack's story was different to anybody else's, but it might just be that last thing that I needed to hear to say, I can do it as well then.
Eddie, I was just reading, Octavia reminded me of something, and it's a popular saying, against all odds. I heard a different version, and I want to share this with Octavia and with you guys as well. And that was just a slight tweak. Instead of saying against all odds, there was a new version, and that was despite the odds. Despite the odds, I will reach my destination. And I think when we begin to become so focused or even obsessed with the vision that's laid before us, we cannot see the obstacles, we cannot see the odds, we cannot see the difficulties, we cannot see the challenges, we cannot see the problems, we cannot see the situations. All we can see is the vision achieved. And you know, tonight, as we're sharing, I think we've just reawakened the stories in other people's hearts and minds, and each of those stories have a powerful message. So let's end this evening. I know that that you may be stepping into darkness in a moment, but Rian, you on the far side of the screen there, looking all lonely. Why don't you share just a last thought with us before we end this evening?
Yeah, I think the last thought that I want to share is, you know what, our lives are full of sad stories as well, and we need to share them as well. You know, we talk here about the outcome at the end of the day. But the journey is always tough. I mean, and I think Henny as well. I know you as well. But I mean, as I'm sitting here, I'm on this journey. I'm excited about, but it's not nice. It's not enjoyable. You know, you get up in the morning and you don't know what's going to happen. I sometimes tell the people I'm very excited. I don't know why I'm excited, but I'm excited about something. But it's not an easy journey. You know, it's not a journey where you have the roadmap until the end of your life. You know, there's a lot. It's a step in the darkness. And I told the people as well this weekend, the courageous leadership is to walk in the darkness. You know, and that means you don't know where you're going. You don't know what's around the next corner, and you know it's okay. It's also okay to be fearful. It's what you do with the fear, because the Bible said God did not give us a spirit of fear. So He acknowledges that fear will always grip you, and that is fine. But despite the fear, let's keep on walking in the darkness. Let's keep on trusting Him, because we are going to get to the breakthrough. And that's also important to share. Life is not just about the successes. In any case, at Map for Life, we don't worry about success. We worry about significance. And maybe I can close with that. Significance is to go out and serve people and not to be served. Significance is to be humble, and it's not to be full of pride. And the most important is the significance is about paying the price and not receiving the price. So the journey is not nice. It's not lekker, hooray, hoo-hoo, we have a big party. The journey is tough, but that makes us significant, and that makes us pay the price so that other people can receive the prize with a Z.
I like the way that Henny suddenly just stands out there. He kind of says, "Here I am." And when you were talking, Rian, you live in a place where there is mist. In the mountains, and often the roads are misted in, and you can't see too far, especially at nighttime when you're traveling in the mist. But you can see the road immediately in front of you, and because you can see the road immediately in front of you, you take a step forward, or you move the car forward, and every time you take a step forward, the mist obediently retreats by the amount that you move forward. And so when you talk about this idea of darkness and so on, just remember, every time you step in faith, fear retreats. In fact, they say when fear knocks and faith answers, no one's there. And that's just something we're going to be mindful of. And I do think there's a time for us to share the stories of the things we've overcome. And so maybe for another night, we can talk about the overcoming stories. Henny, a last word from you?
From my side, I want to challenge everybody that are not on a journey yet. Make sure that you are on a journey. Otherwise, you're just floating around doing nothing. And if you are on this journey, my advice to you is going to be a quote again. The soreness of growth is so much less expensive than the devastating cost of regret. Always remember that.
I trust that you're going to be putting all of these quotes of yours in a book, Mr. Henny. New Wood. I think we're going to call you New Wood, Mr. Henny. No, New Forest. New Forest. I just want to say a special thank you to Ngwadi, Octavia, Jackie, Jane, Master, and anybody who I may have missed out, and those of you watching the recording. Lovely to have a group of people joining us. We love sharing with each other, and maybe consider joining us in the panel in one of the sessions ahead. Henny, Rian, thank you for your investment in my life, in the lives of those who've been listening this evening. And let's go out and keep the flame alight. Let's take our light into the darkness and share hope with the world that needs it desperately right now. Thank you, guys. Have a lovely evening. Good night.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.